So I'm Allison Butler. I'm a business owner, a mother. I live in Eastern Newfoundland in paradise right now with my husband and my 2 children who are ages 9 and 5. And as I spoke about, I've always had that entrepreneurial spark and creativity, but it was and still is a winding path to get here, and I really wouldn't have it any other way. So just before we dive into the content, I just want to kind of tell you a little bit about my background. When I was younger, I always wanted to go to art school, but as I sort of talked about my growing up environment, I was always encouraged to take a really safe path. Now today, I'm not even really sure what that means, but I spent my university career at Memorial. I completed the Bachelor of Commerce program, so I have a business degree in marketing and communications, and then I spent many, many years working for a local nonprofit organization, doing communications and more recently developing projects and business ventures from the ground up. And as part of that career, I also became a trainer. And I have spoken widely to every kind of audience you could ever imagine, from school children to conference stages, seniors groups, workplace professional development days, and everything else in between. And in between, I was always running a business of one kind or another. A few years ago, this is kind of the core of the story and how I've come to be here today training with you. A few years ago, I was not feeling like the best version of myself. I actually felt terrible. I was exhausted all the time, just really sluggish, like I had no energy for anything. And I went through the motions of my day in a fog. I was tired and irritable, and by the time I finished working, I felt like I had nothing left for my family. And I felt physically unwell in my body. I gained weight, I had aches and pains, headaches. I just generally felt unwell. And eventually, after many trips to a wide variety of professionals, including doctors or physicians, naturopaths, massage therapy, counseling therapists, blood work, just so many things, to my ultimate surprise at the time, I was diagnosed with generalized depression and anxiety. And it might be surprising, but that was a very important moment to me in my life. It has pivoted the way I do a lot of things and how I show up as a person and as a business owner. And I very often say it was the best thing that ever happened to me. Today, I'm a mental health first aid trainer, certified with the Mental Health Commission of Canada. So for anyone who isn't familiar with that, it's a certificate training program designed for everyone that helps us learn how to recognize signs that a person might be experiencing a decline in their mental well-being or in a mental health crisis, and encourages the other person to talk about their mental well-being, discuss supports that are available, reaching out to support, and to be able to assist in a crisis. And so now I am facilitating that program virtually all over Canada, right here from my computer, which I'm really grateful for and has been one of those real kind of blessings in disguise for 2020. We're going to kind of talk about shifting the way we think about things. But in addition to the mental health first aid, I do a lot of speaking and training for groups like we are here today. And I'm really particularly interested in working with business owners around health and well-being because it's a really core part of who I am. And I don't think that there are enough wellness supports out there for us as business owners and entrepreneurs. And I shared all of this as an important piece of my story because not only does it connect to the work that I do now, but I'm really going to emphasize this role that wellness plays in our lives as business owners and how important it is to incorporate wellness for ourselves and others so that our businesses can thrive. And I mentioned to everyone that if you are a writer or you like taking notes, I encourage you to have some way to take notes during the presentation because we're going to talk today about 10 ways that we can create energy to thrive in 2021, both personally and professionally. And everything that I talk about today about well-being, about healthy actions we can take, about how we support ourselves as business owners, ultimately connects back to here, our brain and our mental well-being. So now I do have a slide for this, I think. Let's just see what's going on with my slides here. Okay. We all have a brain, and therefore we all have mental health and mental well-being. And a lot of people don't think about their minds as part of their health. I know Sharon does because her business revolves all around that. But, you know, at any given time, we can all feel stressed, we feel sadness, we feel anxious, and sometimes these feelings last longer than others. And it's really important for me to point out, this is part of the reason why I have so much interest in working with business owners, because our brains and our mental well-being is at more risk than kind of the average population. So I'm just going to speak to that a little bit before we dive into our 10 steps, and then we'll have an hour, which is hopefully going to be enough time to kind of go through our 10 steps. So in 2019, the Canadian Mental Health Association came out with a study on business owners and mental well-being. And as soon as I saw this study, I said, okay, like this is an area where I want to support people. So from this study of Canadian business owners, 2/3 of business owners said that they feel depressed regularly. I'm not sure how they measured that, but that's significant. Business owners are feeling down. They're not feeling like their best selves. And also, of those business owners, anyone who was identified as female, who was at the early stages or growth stages of their business, or those who were on their own or who had fewer employees, were more at risk to feel low. And nearly half said that not feeling like their best self, I talk about feeling like your best self a lot, it interferes with their ability to work. So our brain and our business is really intertwined. And when I read this, I knew right away the answers were clear to me, probably just because of my background. But why are business owners and entrepreneurs so vulnerable in this situation? Let's just think about a lot of the things that happen in entrepreneur life. Being a business owner can be emotionally draining. It can be stressful. Sometimes we don't have a good support network or support resources. we are our business. So we have higher stakes to get it right, the pressure to have the answers, the pressure to make the right decisions. Very often, our identity and self-worth are really connected to how well our company or our business does. There's often financial risk and stress. And sometimes we don't take the time to focus on self-care. And we can work long hours and sometimes don't have understanding from family and friends and people around us. So that's a lot of reasons why business owners kind of are more at risk to not feel well or to not feel like the best version of themselves. So this is not a chat question, but I just wanted you to think about, can you relate to any of these things that I'm talking about? Are you feeling stressed now? And I think it's really important to be aware that as business owners, we need to take extra care, probably more than the average person, to protect our health and well-being. Just going to kind of leave you with this, if you are your business, where is your business if you are unable to work or you are unable to lead a team? And I'm using that to launch into our strategies and some solutions for this coming year. As I said before, I'm going to cover 10 general areas and provide some tips for each one. There was so many things that I wanted to say as part of this presentation, but hopefully this will leave you with some new tools and ideas. And I'm very honest, I'm all about sharing my own experiences and things that I've tried over the last particularly few years of living with, experimenting with, reading about, and researching for my own overall mental well-being. So we're going to dive into our 10 things. I just want to give everyone an opportunity that if you want to ask me anything so far, that you can do so in the chat. And I'm also just going to take a sip of water of my drink while I let everybody do that. And we will be having opportunity to kind of interact a little bit more now. Okay. So far, so good, I think. I'll keep an eye on you. Okay. The first of our 10 things that I wanted to talk to you about today is rest. Rest. So many of us spend a lot of time overdoing things. And I really don't like that I can't see you, because sometimes people like nod along with me and I get validation for what I'm saying. But I'm just going to picture you nodding along with me. For some of us, it feels really necessary to do everything and be everything. I just talked about how you are your business. So without you, oh yes, Carol was watching hockey. Yes, I think a lot of people had a late night last night. So I'm trying to be extra energizing for you. But yes, ironic and rest. So I just talked about how you are your business. So without you, your business likely doesn't operate well. So many of us are running on empty all the time that we forget or ignore that we are possibly a couple of small symptoms away from being unwell. And then where does that leave us? People talk about this a lot. I feel like it's talked about all the time. They talk about, okay, put your own oxygen mask on first. They talk about self-care, but so many of us just ignore it because, and I, myself included, when I say off, I really mean me as well. We ignore it because there's just so much to do right now. And there are so many academic studies that show that rest actually improves productivity, even when on the surface it feels counterintuitive. And I just want to show you a little slide. I love this graphic. I'm pretty sure I kept it in here. Oh, it's here. So I'm going to talk about a lot of these things today. I just want to put this in like wallpaper and put it on the side of the room. But what I thought would make me productive and then what actually does is just some food for thought for you for the next little while as we go through our presentation. And you can see on the side here, this is from illustrators and authors called Liz and Molly. I love their account if you ever wanted to look that up. They do all of these kind of really great pie charts and other awesome things. One big thing for us as business owners is burnout, feeling burnt out. And that can often happen at the end of a year, especially after a year like we just had. And I just want to point out, because some people don't realize this, that the symptoms of burnout look a lot like the symptoms of depression. They're very interconnected. And they can include being tired, having no energy, feeling irritable, having a lack of focus. And I meet so many business owners who don't rest as much as we could and who don't get enough sleep. So first, chat box activity, and only participate if you feel up to it. But let's take a minute and type in the chat, how many hours of sleep do you usually get a night? Maybe not last night if you were watching the hockey game like Carol was, but how many hours of sleep do you get on average a night? Ooh, you have like good sleepers, be honest. And we need, different people need different amounts of sleep. I was listening to a training call last night, and I maybe got 6 hours of sleep last night, which is not enough for me, and I'm feeling it this morning. Another reason why I'm sitting on my bouncy ball. Okay, so we want to be honest with ourselves about our rest. And Allison and I talked about this a little bit when we were chatting about this presentation. So I'm going to come just with some more tips as we go through the presentation. So if you're feeling like, I don't know how to get more rest, we'll get there. But just a couple of tips. You hear these things all the time, but they really work. And a lot of these are things that I have used over the last couple of years as well. So one of the big things that I've tried to get into the habit of doing is all electronics off and put away at a certain time. I could do a whole presentation about electronics and our mental well-being and that whole rabbit hole, but I can't get into it all today. I read a lot about this. I'm really interested in it. I feel like technology is so important to our world in so many ways, but can also cause us a lot of stress. So have a bedtime for your electronics, and really try to stick to it. It's hard, I know. And a lot of you seem like you're pretty good sleepers, which I'm very impressed with. But for me, it's really important that I go to bed at a certain time and stick to it. And also about rest, it's difficult to rest if we are moving throughout our day like a race car, and then we just shut it down at night. So like sleep at night is great, but we also want to make time for rest throughout our day. And that's going to look different for everybody, and we are going to talk about this more. But just like, for example, for years I was eating lunch on the fly, like not taking time to properly sit down and eat. I was scheduling things back to back to back to back to back because I felt like I had to. But it's not healthy, and we need time to rest throughout our days. So I just want you to keep that in mind. We're going to have our first action item. So at the end of the training, if you do decide to take notes, we will have 10 action items and things in our notebooks that we can start making a more conscious effort towards. So our first action item for rest is that I want you to grab your notebook or your laptop or whatever you want to do and write down 3 to 5 tangible things that you can do in your life starting today that feel like they will bring you more rest. At this point, I do not want you to worry about the how or the why. Just write down things that you feel like would support you to rest right now. So I'm going to give you a minute or two to do that. And if you feel so inclined and you want to share some things with us in the chat, you can go ahead. But I'm just going to be quiet for a minute. Okay. I don't want to rush anybody. I should probably be writing my own things so that I can know when everyone's probably finished, but hopefully that's good. And you know that you have this activity to come back to as well once we finish the presentation. Now, some of you, now that we've started off, some of you might be thinking, sitting here and thinking and saying, okay, well, this all sounds great, but Allison, you don't know me, and I don't fall into this category. I don't have time to rest because I'm busy. And I hear that because that has very much been me and sometimes still is me. So I have this picture of a clock up here. And our second thing that we're going to talk about for energizing is time. So I don't know about you, but I feel like I never have enough time. And to be completely honest with you, I've always been the number one person to complain about how I don't have enough time. It's like, oh, I got so much to do. I don't have enough time. I don't have enough time for this. I'm never going to get everything done. That might connect back to some of my things that I was talking about at the beginning of the presentation about just, you know, some of the ways that I grew up thinking. But I'm going to tell you something. You may or may not agree with me, but there are always pockets of time to look after ourselves. Always. And honestly, I've found that the more I rest and the more I exercise and the more I look after myself, the more time I magically seem to have. because I have more energy and I have more perspective on things or different perspective on things, and I always seem to have more space. So I want us to start, I'm a very creative thinker. It's one of the things that I do. So I want us to collectively think outside the box here for a minute. How do we create time when we feel like we don't have any? So sometimes we're our own worst enemy. I'm the sort of person who wants to have everything finished now, gotta have it done now, or I add too much to my plate to begin with without leaving spaces for other things. If anyone feels like they can relate to that, you can let me know in chat. I hope some of you can relate to that. We all have different personalities, but I think a lot of business owners, yeah, right? A lot of business owners, we have this kind of go-getter attitude and we got to do it all right now. So I want to ask you this question. Is everything that you do in your day essential and urgent? Kind of sit with that. And if you want to write that down, essential and urgent, go ahead. What is essential and urgent? Can things be spaced out more? I really believe, because this is something that I've been living for myself in the last couple of years, if we prioritize our well-being, mentally, physically, whatever that looks like for you, as an essential piece of our day, then we have more time and energy to accomplish the things that we need to. I have an online course, and in that course, I talk about a concept called time boxing. It's an organizational thing, where you plan your time around essential things first. So I'm just going to give you a little snippet of that here. We can't do all of it, but this is just to give you a little taste. So, second action item, our action item for this section. In a minute, I'm going to get you to think about and write down the top 5 to 10 most essential parts of your day, personally and as a business owner. Okay, I'm going to give you my own example, just so you can see how this is going to work before I get you to do it. Okay, so for me, the most essential parts of my day, I'm looking at my notes, I have 6 here, I think. I can't count. Okay, most essential and urgent parts of my day every day. Feeding myself and the other humans in my life. Sometimes my husband helps with that, but, like feeding myself. Helping my kids get ready for school and getting them to school on time. Taking my medication. Showering and movement for moving my body for at least 20 to 30 minutes. And this looks different throughout the week. Like I do a virtual boot camp a couple of days a week. I go for walks. Sometimes I do yoga in my living room. Now, these are things that have to happen every day. They're my essentials. But wait. If you were paying attention, you will have noticed that there was nothing in my daily essentials that was related to work. After these first set of essentials, it could really go any number of ways. I do have a bit of a flexible schedule, so what I put into each day looks a little bit different, like I'm here with you this morning. And there is 100% work that has to happen daily, but that's a little bit of a different thing. I'm saying this because I want to get you thinking. So if you are a retail store or a restaurant owner, for example, one of your essentials might be that you had to open by 10 a.m. every day. I'm just throwing out examples. If you have a farm, maybe feeding the chickens. I'm not a farmer, and that's not my area of expertise, but you get the point. Maybe feeding the chickens is an essential thing that has to happen every day. So I'm going to give you a couple of minutes. I want you to be really honest take a few minutes to think about what your daily essential things are and write them down. So let's take a couple of minutes to do that. And once you get them, I'd love for somebody to share with me in the chat. What are your daily essentials? Okay, Sharon is sharing with us. Thank you, Sharon. Oh, I like communicate. Good morning, Daphne. I don't think I saw you or said hello to you when I started. Welcome. Thanks for joining. Okay, so some of us have our essentials, and if you don't have them all yet, that's something that you can keep working on. Oh, light the stove. Love it. Okay, wait, I got to pause now because I got to read all your chats because I love it. Okay, excellent. Getting those kids to daycare. That sometimes takes way longer than we plan, right? Both of mine are in school now. So that helps sometimes. Okay, lovely. Thank you for sharing. I love seeing your daily essentials. So, okay, we have our essentials. We want to keep that in mind all the time. Now, how do I find the space for things that I want to do or that I feel like I need to do for my business? We all have the same numbers of hours in the day. And a couple of you at least have indicated that you have children. Some of you may not. But, you know, we all have those things, like things outside ourselves that we're responsible for. So, you know, we have to get creative sometimes. It takes work and effort, but you are in control of your time. So, you know, I'll just give an example of something that happened to me the other day. One of my essentials is movement, right? Monday, it's only Wednesday, folks. On Monday, my alarm accidentally didn't go off somehow. And I would normally exercise really early in the morning on Monday. Well, that didn't happen. So, you know, a previous version of me would kind of give up on that. But it's one of my essentials, and I really keep that in my mind, and I focus on my essentials as I'm planning my day. So I knew that I had to do that exercise. So what ended up happening is that when my kids came home from school, I did the workout in the late afternoon in the basement with my 5-year-old son climbing around in the room with me. Is it perfect? Definitely not. Is it easy? Not always. But it's possible. And it's part of my essential time. And so many things that I'm still reading, let's see, lots of walking and nature things too, which is great because I'm going to talk about that. There's ways that we can use our time differently too. I'm going to talk about learning in just a little bit, but I love learning, but sometimes I don't have time to sit down, or sometimes I haven't prioritized the time to kind of sit down and learn something new. But I do often listen to podcasts or audiobooks while I'm washing dishes or doing laundry. I actually know a business owner with 5 children who spends a ton of time on her own personal and professional development because she listens while she's driving her kids to and from school and to and from activities. So you can find time. You can. You have to prioritize your essential things first, including rest, exercise, eating, the things that support your well-being. You put those things in your schedule as non-negotiables. They have to happen. And then you build your work around that. And in cases like I just described where I accidentally slept in, I had to rejig my schedule a little bit for my essentials, but I got it done. And before I clue up the time section, I just want to circle back to the reason why this is so important. Because as business owners, we are at much greater risk of mental health strain throughout our lives. So we owe it to ourselves, our families, our businesses to take care of ourselves. I really believe that it's a core requirement of longevity in business. Before I move on to our third section, does anyone have any questions for me? Questions, comments, thoughts about time? Type to me in the chat. I think we're good, but sometimes it's fleeting. Yes, it is. And it really takes a conscious effort. Oh, Allison, how much time per day should someone spend on self-care? That's a really good question. And it's a tricky one for me to answer because we're all so different and unique. How do I want to answer that? We want to make sure, I feel like it's going to vary from person to person, but you can feel that. Like, you can feel if you feel tired or if you feel energized, like on that spectrum. And like, it's never going to be perfect. I'm tired right now because I already told you I only got 6 hours of sleep and I normally get more. Like, there's no perfection here. But we want to feel energized. So like, I'm tired, but I'm energized because I get to be here with you and this is important to me. And I've taken the time to do some of my essentials, and I will do more of my essentials as the day goes on. So I don't think there's any right or wrong answer to how much time, but I think and I'm going to talk about a few more of those things. Like, we want to make sure that we're getting our essentials in there, whatever that means to you. Okay, the third thing that I want to talk about, I'm being conscious of time. And as I was working on this presentation, I was thinking to myself, I feel like it might be too long, but I have so much that I want to say. But those first two were some of the real meaty pieces that I wanted to talk about. I still have an hour. I was thinking that I only had half an hour left. Oh, I'm great. All right. That's right, Allison. You can just nod for me, right? It's till 11:30. Oh, okay. Excellent. All right. The third thing, honesty and listening to yourself. Whew. Honesty. So what I mean by that is so many of us spend, I'm getting a little bit deep here. So many of us spend a lot of time making ourselves busy to cover up how we are really feeling. Just going to let you sit with that for a second. If we, or when we slow down, when we quiet down, if we rest, then we have more opportunity to think and feel and reflect. And that can be uncomfortable for a lot of us. So this is where honesty comes into play. I genuinely believe that one of the best things I ever did for myself was to recognize early, hey, something isn't right here. I'm really not feeling like myself. And instead of feeling weak or feeling like I should just push through, I listened to myself and I was honest with myself. A lot of times we're taught or we feel like we have to just push through. And you have to know yourself. One of the recurring themes for me was that even when I was going through this whole period of not feeling great and not feeling myself, people very close to me were saying, you're too busy, you're stressed, you're taking on too much. And those things were all probably true. But I was honest with myself, and I knew deep down that I was just not feeling like myself. I knew. And I was honest with myself. And because I've moved into, well, I think because I've kind of moved into this mental health and wellness sphere, something that I love is that a lot of people talk to me about their mental health, and I get to hear so many stories from people. And I really hear that theme a lot, like that feeling that I just have to push through, that it's not good enough for me to not feel like the best version of myself, and why. So we have to be honest with ourselves to recognize and admit how we're feeling. It's very important. And the second part of honesty is to not just feel it, but to be able to put into words how you're feeling so that others can support you. And this is obviously going to come easier for some than for others. I actually see this kind of trait for myself as kind of a superpower, because I'm really open about talking about how I'm feeling, and I genuinely believe it was a huge key for me in having an early diagnosis with my mental health and just not going through life for years and years feeling miserable. It was that honesty with myself, I tried to keep pushing through. And I did continue, I continued to work, I continued to do a lot of things. And if you met me during that time, you probably wouldn't have known anything differently. But I knew. It was that self-honesty. I knew. And I was not well, and I was not being the best version of myself. And what I always say in my trainings and my presentations, if we're not being the best version of ourselves, then what? Like, why? For what? So our action item for section 3, get your pen, honesty. I want you to think of a scale from 1 to 10. 1 being not at all, 10 being all the time. How honest do you think you're being with yourself, or that you are with yourself? I'm not going to ask you to share this in the chat. This is a personal thing. How honest are you with yourself on a scale of 1 to 10? And how often do you pay attention to those little clues and the signs from your body and your mind? Okay, that's the first part. Second part might be a little bit uncomfortable for some of you. I love making people uncomfortable. No, it's important work. We're doing important work here today. We're going to sit here for a couple of minutes quietly. I'm not going to talk. I love talking. And I'm going to encourage you, and when I say a couple of minutes, it's going to be a little bit longer than what we did before. I might actually go get a refill on my water. We're going to sit here quietly. I want to encourage you to listen and to yourself. I want you to write down the honest thoughts that come to mind. Don't worry about it being right or wrong. Don't worry about what it means. Just write what is coming to your mind about yourself, about your business, about your family. This is a way to practice listening, and it can be uncomfortable, especially if you're not used to doing this kind of stuff. But work with me here. And I know some of you are already writing, but it's a way to practice listening. You're not going to be asked to share. It's only for you. So take a couple of minutes quietly, write down those thoughts that you're having. But that kind of was an introduction to what this can look like. That listening and that honesty. Okay. Fourth thing. This is a big one in my life. And this is also something that sometimes we have to be a little bit creative with. Accountability. This is something that I talk about a lot in my trainings and programs, because just to bring it back to the mental health piece, there's so much out there, right? There's so much information out there, even what I'm talking about here today. There's so much out there that says, okay, this is what you do to feel better, right? We eat well, we exercise, we meditate maybe, we rest, all this stuff. And I know from my own experience that it's one thing to know what to do to help us feel better, and it's a totally different thing to do it. So I speak about this a lot because I think it's the transparency and the openness and the honesty that is really what we need. All of us need more of. So for me personally, this has been my biggest struggle with my own mental well-being. I've spent a lot of time working on my well-being, but when I'm down, when I'm not in my best headspace, which does happen, and just as an aside, I often don't know when it's going to happen. It's very difficult to do the things that I know I should do to help me feel better. Doing can be really difficult to achieve when we aren't feeling like the best version of ourselves. So just for example, when I don't feel mentally at my best, and this includes feeling tired, run down, no energy, all of the intellectual parts of me, my brain, knows that I will feel better if I go outside and get some fresh air and exercise, a walk. And these seemingly simple tasks are very difficult for me when I'm not in a good headspace. And some of you might be able to relate to that. And I will make all kinds of excuses around how I'm too busy right now, or I'll have good intentions. So I'll say, okay, I'll go out after I finish this piece of work that I'm working on right now, or okay, I'm going to go at lunch. I'm going to go after supper. But ultimately, it usually doesn't happen because other things get in the way. It's like, okay, I'll do that next, but then something else happens. And this is where our essentials and our time blocking comes in too. But for me, a very important part of the overall wellness puzzle for myself and for my business is to have an accountability partner. So what does that mean? It can look different for everybody, but it's someone that reminds us of the benefits of doing something that help our overall mental and physical well-being. So I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to talk about a few creative strategies. For me, I have a bit of a built-in accountability partner. My accountability partner is my husband. That, for me, works well. For you, it could be a family member, a friend, a business colleague, a therapist. It could be somebody that you pay to help keep you on track. That could be worthwhile. It's basically someone that encourages us to make positive choices and give us positive reinforcement in the right direction. And I also want to say that not just anybody makes a good accountability partner. So I always say for some people, if you live with another person, sometimes that person isn't necessarily the best accountability partner for you for whatever reason. My accountability partner, we've come to kind of an agreement about how we approach this. It's taken honesty, one of the things that I've talked about, and it's taken communication and some trial and error. But when I'm not feeling like my best self, I get a lot of reminders. Of, did you go for your walk? Did you, and I've got all those excuses. I've got them at the ready, like, no, I'm right in the middle of something right now, blah, blah, blah. So I get all of those nudges to do the things that help me feel better. You can have an accountability partner in different areas of your business as well. Now, if you're sitting there and you're thinking, okay, this sounds good, but I don't feel like I have someone in my life that would make a good accountability partner. So if you don't have a spouse or partner, if you're a you're a single parent, if you don't feel like the people around you are supportive of your business or your well-being, it might feel like there's more roadblocks in your way. An extra roadblock doesn't mean that you can't. It means you have to get more creative with how you operate. So, as I was writing this, again, I'm a very creative thinker. Some of these things might not apply to you at all, but I just wanted to sort of give some tangible examples of what that might look like. Like, if you have children and you're thinking, okay, like, never mind the accountability, I just need to find that time. Maybe your child has a friend and you kind of come to an accountability agreement with another parent so that they take your child for an hour or two and then regularly, like on a regular schedule, and then you take their child for an hour or two. Like, there's so many ways. There's organizations out there supporting business owners, including Navigate. So there's ways that you can find that accountability. Sometimes there are funding programs for business owners that help us receive specialized training or coaching, and there could be an aspect of organization or accountability to this. So we have to remember that there are often people who are willing to help. Sometimes we just have to be willing to ask for what we need. Okay, Sharon, I'm going to see what you're saying. Yes. Children and grandchildren and aging parents are time consuming. I absolutely agree. So whatever it looks like for you, that's why I talked about time right at the beginning, early in the presentation. So for each of us, it might take something different. And, some of this might be more of a one-on-one conversation with creative problem solving, but it's to get everybody's wheels turning and get yourself thinking. So action item for this. I can't even remember what number we're on. We're on number 4? Yes. Action item for number 4. I want you to think about, do you have someone in your life who is already like an accountability partner? If yes, great. If no, I want you to brainstorm for a minute about who you have in your life that might make a good accountability partner. Doesn't mean we're asking them, doesn't mean anything. I just want you to think about it for a minute. Try to think outside the box. Don't worry about the hows and the whys. Just think about what might make a good accountability or who might make a good accountability partner for me. Get those brain juices flowing. And there's a second part to this in a second. The second piece, if you're ready, you can keep brainstorming your accountability partner as well. The second piece is, I was going to say it's more important, but no, I don't think it is. Okay, the second piece of this is, what do you feel you most need accountability support with right now? This is part of energizing and setting up our year. We need to know these things so that we can plan and support ourselves. What do you most need accountability support with right now? It could be one thing. It could be more than one thing. I want you to write it down, and I want you to be specific. So just for example, I want to use some business examples. Okay, so maybe your accountability is, okay, I need accountability support doing my numbers and my bookkeeping every month because I always feel so disorganized with that. Not me personally, I have spreadsheets but I know that this is something that a lot of people struggle with. So maybe it's, okay, I need someone to keep me accountable to organize my receipts at the end of every week. I don't know. It's just an example. So I want you to think about what you most need accountability support with right now. Be specific and write that down. Okay. We are at number 5. And the earlier ones, I have about 40 minutes left. It seems like we're only halfway through, but the earlier ones were meatier. So I think we're still doing great on time. How is everyone doing? Does anyone need like a little 2-minute break to refresh their coffee or tea? Feel free to, get up and grab something. Let me know in the chat. Hopefully I'm keeping you awake, even if you didn't have a ton of rest last night. Okay. 5th thing.
Allison, can I interrupt for 1 second?
Sure.
I was just thinking that would be a great business idea to create an app for accountability support. And I looked it up and there is one, so I'll stick that in the chat.
Amazing. Is it a free app?
I'm not sure. It's called getsupporty.com.
Cool.
Need motivation to stick to good habits, and there's an app to help you with that.
Yeah, it might just send you a little, I don't know, I'll have to look. Please share it with us.
Yeah, just a, interesting thought, because I was thinking to myself for people who, like, just as I was kind of thinking about my own, who could I go to? I know the people that I've tried to have as accountability partners are just as busy as I am, and we all fall off the bandwagon together. It seems to be so I was thinking, what about an app? An app wouldn't fall off the bandwagon.
Oh, cool. That's a great idea. And I think sometimes in an ideal situation, and again, everybody's unique, and sometimes it takes a little bit of one-on-one brainstorming to go through kind of like the unique situation. But ideally, I think for me, it would probably be a combination of both. Like, if the app is sending you reminders and alerts in your phone, that's great, but they're also really easy to ignore, right? So I think if you do have somebody, not everybody might have somebody, but give it some thought, right? And maybe something that or someone that you hadn't thought of before could make a good accountability partner. It's just some food for thought, for sure. But I love that app, and if you want to share that with us in the chat, I would love it. Okay, thing number 5. And we already spoke about this a little bit. And it's one of those things that you hear all the time, but I just want to talk about it maybe with a little bit of a different lens and to bring it back into that essentials and time piece is movement and also nature. So I spoke about this already. One of the first things that happens to me when I don't have a great day is I don't want to do anything. I don't want to do it. And I do, though, find that one of the fastest ways to improve my mood, shift my mood, is with exercise. And for me, that's usually going for a walk. But as I talked about, it's really often not simple. It can feel like a mountain to me. And I know Carol commented, I talk about some of this stuff on my social media and on my blog. And I know Carol commented on this before at some point, but it actually often feels like a mountain. It's like I'm usually a really self-driven and self-motivated person. But for some reason, and maybe some of you can relate, doing the one thing that I know could immediately help me improve how I'm feeling can feel impossible to do. I spoke about that before, when I'm not in a good headspace. And so I really want you to take that with you. Like if you're really busy in your business and there's always a million things coming at you, if you feel stressed, can you drop that and go for a walk, for example? What does it take in your day to help you put some of those wellness things into place? And I think another really important part of this movement thing is that it's important to find something that you enjoy doing, whether that be biking, yoga, walking, running, swimming. I used to run a lot. My body doesn't like that anymore, so I'm more in the walk, yoga piece of things now. But it's important to try to do it as much as you can. And Sharon said practice. Yes, absolutely. We have to practice. These are things that I've been putting into place in my own life over the last several years. So it's a journey. I'm not expecting you to leave here today and have all those boxes checked, but I'm getting you to write it down, have action items, have things to think on and reflect after we leave. And prioritizing it, putting it in your calendar and sticking to it, using those essentials. Okay, what are my essentials in my life? I have to do this today. Everything else is kind of a secondary piece. When I teach mental health first aid, one of the get to know you questions that I use is, what do you do in your free time or for fun? And I've noticed lately that so many people say hiking or being outside. And a lot of you are joining today from the West Coast. So beautiful, so much beautiful nature. Just a quick question. You can just type yes in the chat if you agree. How many of you feel better when you're outdoors? Type it in the chat and let me know. 100%. As a little bit of an aside, has anyone here ever heard of forest therapy? I love it. There's evidence-based research that shows that being outside in nature has wellness benefits for us. And I just threw a few statistics in here yesterday because I just absolutely love this. And I have to remind myself of this stuff all the time. I actually know a business owner here on the Avalon who is a forest therapist. She's very cool. Okay, so just a couple of like evidence-based, research-based things about being outside in nature. Leisurely, this is research that they did. Leisurely forest walks. I don't know what kind of forest they used, but compared with urban walks, show a 12.4% decrease in the stress hormone cortisol. Being in the trees, I love it. Also, I just totally copied and pasted from the study, but a 7% decrease in sympathetic nerve activity, a 1.4% decrease in blood pressure, and a 5.8% decrease in heart rate, just from being on a walk in the forest versus a walk in the city. Now, there's nothing wrong with city walking. If that's what you can get into your day, do it. I just think it's amazing. You have so much beautiful nature on the West Coast. For those of you who are there, we have lots of beautiful nature here on the East Coast too. I love this concept. I like sharing it with people because I just think it's so fascinating about the things about our mental well-being. And time in nature improves our mental performance and our creativity. What an amazing way as a business owner to stimulate, like that's what we need. We need mental performance and creativity. And they did this study with a group of outward bound participants, which is, if you're not familiar, kind of like a nature outdoor group. And they found that this is mind-boggling to me. They found that participants performed 50% better on creative problem-solving tasks. Now, they've been out in the wilderness for a while after 3 days of wilderness backpacking. 50% better from being outside. Amazing. Oh, there's chat happening. What's happening? Sam says she's taken her laptop in the woods to work. I love that. Oh, Robbie, you have a guide who works with Albert. Robbie, we got to talk after. I want to know all the things about your business and all the stuff. Okay, that's fascinating. Yes, there's a Forest Therapy Institute. I think there's so many really brilliant things. And so the girl, I'll just give her a shout out. The entrepreneur that I know here, she's actually from Ontario, but she lives here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Her name is Jessica Spooner, and her business is called Rewild Wellness. So that's my shout out for her. She's a forest therapy guide. She does all kinds of cool stuff. At least give her a follow on Instagram or Facebook, because she does all kinds of really cool stuff. Okay, I got off track. All right, so I love talking about that aspect of things. Like, just think about, okay, how could I incorporate, I mean, some of you have more outdoor, like Robbie, you have more outdoor-based businesses to some extent, right? So it's potentially more natural for you to be outside. But a lot of us, thanks, Ray. I'm hoping that you might be in one of my training sessions soon. So, and nice to meet you. Yeah, so a lot of us, though, you know, sit in front of a screen or we're having lots of meetings. Think about how you can incorporate the outdoors into your business. So like one thing that I would love to incorporate more is walking meetings. I just love the concept of this. Like, who says that you have to meet in a coffee shop or an office or a boardroom? Like, get creative with your time and how you use it as a business owner. And I know Carol, when I met her last year, she always jokes about how she goes to lots of coffee meetings but doesn't actually ever drink any coffee. So I don't know, Carol, that might be a good one for you. So go back to your accountability partner when you need them. Because I am still on the accountability partner thing, even though I went on a bit of a tangent. Oh, sorry, no, I'm not. I'm on nature, but I want to come back to that accountability partner piece. So use your accountability partner. If you guys are already having walking meetings, I'm coming out there to go on them. I'm not even joking. There are so many days in my life when I would definitely, I think it's hard. I really like to be honest, because when you sit here and look at me, I'm like sitting on the bouncy ball and I'm energetic. But I have a lot of days where I would definitely choose the couch or working on one of my projects over getting outside. There's still lots of days where this happens. So those are the days when I will argue with my accountability partner, and then I get that extra push, because as business owners, we can't do it alone. And I think a lot of us try to do it alone more than maybe we need to. It takes a village, and it's really important to find your village or even be part of a village for someone else, you know? Okay, action item for this one. How do you want to commit to moving this year? It can be one thing or it can be several things. Moving physically, moving your body. What do you want to do more of? What do you want to get better at? How do you want to commit to moving? Write it down. And then after we leave here today, I want you to think about how you're going to incorporate this as one of your daily essentials if it isn't already. I know some of you haven't. Great stuff. If you don't already have it as one of your daily essentials, how are you going to incorporate it? Food for thought. Got to read what Carol wrote. Love it. Sometimes we just got to think outside the box. Oh, I forgot to change my slide. See, this is what I'm talking about with my PowerPoint. This is why I didn't get into it too much, because I'm just talking and you're just listening to me. So hopefully that's all good. You don't need to stare at the screen. I think that's most of the end of my slides anyway. Okay. Thing number 6. What is it? Resilience. So here's the thing that I have to say about resilience. Being a human is hard work. Being a business owner is hard. Working on yourself, it's hard. And it takes resilience to work on yourself and work on your business. And what do I mean when I'm talking about resilience? It's weathering those times of difficulty, the stormy seas. Becoming more resilient helps us get through difficult times. It also empowers us to grow and even improve our lives along the way. It's like building a muscle. We work on it and we grow stronger over time. And how do we build resilience? We do it through a lot of the things that we're talking about today. So we build resilience through taking care of our body and our wellness, through being proactive, through helping and supporting others, through looking for opportunities for self-discovery. We did that a little bit already today. We got honest with ourselves. We listened. Through learning from our past. And, for example, through prioritizing meaningful relationships. That might be one of your essentials, your daily essentials as well. No one's perfect. These things take time, but over time, looking after ourselves, our bodies, and our minds helps us to build resilience for when hard things happen, like they did last year, potentially. I kind of know 2 different types of business owners right now in this moment. I know business owners whose business basically stopped during COVID and they had to figure things out or figure out how to do things differently or pause. And then there's some business owners who, due to the nature of their business, whatever that looks like, became busier than ever. But both of those things are kind of extremes. And both require resilience and mental wellness and overall wellness to sustain. So, action item for this, for number 6. I want you to think about a time during the past year when you have been resilient. Whatever that looks like for you. Try to be as specific as possible. I want you to write it down with details so that when you're looking back and you're reflecting over your notes, you have a reminder to yourself, I am resilient. I can do hard things. Write that down for me. Okay, I can't see everybody to know if you're done. Okay. Allison, I'm kind of using you as my guideline because you're the only one I can see. If you didn't have enough time, set aside for yourself a time for yourself later and come back to the action items. Okay, number 7, learning. I love learning. I'm a lifelong learner. You get better at your work and in your own business through personal development. I have changed so much in the past couple of years through continuous personal development. And I could easily say that this is something that I don't have time for. I just want to give you an example from my own life I just want everybody to know, like, everybody is busy. For me, in the past year, I worked the equivalent of 2 full-time jobs, experienced COVID, had 2 young children at home with us for half of the year, and so much more. Your story doesn't necessarily look like mine, but we all had that busyness. And I talked about this a little bit before, but there's so many free ways to learn. Some of my favorites are podcasts and books, and I borrow a lot of books for free through the public library digital books on my e-reader. And they actually have a lot of great business books or things that if you're looking for specific topics. I also do paid professional, when I say I do, I take professional personal development that I pay for, and I know that this might not be something that feels accessible to everybody right now, but I just want to leave you with this, again, my own story as food for thought. So a couple of years ago, I didn't feel like I could spend money on things like workshops and professional development for my business. And there's a whole long-winded story that I could probably tell for the rest of the day, but the short version is that it's important to have an open mind and think about the future. So, as you know, a lot of things were happening a couple of years ago just with my own mental well-being, my business, and all kinds of things. And kind of completely out of the blue, I spent money on a business retreat, and it was completely out of character for me, and it was way more money than I had ever spent on something like that. And my life has changed. I can really honestly say that my life has changed in so many ways for the better since then, including my business, my friendships, my kind of business relationships, everything. And I just kind of like to put that out there because it was really out of character for me, but there's so many ways that we can learn and support ourselves that can have really meaningful change and impact in our business and in our lives. So the other thing that I hear from business owners a lot is that there's so many options out there. It's really easy to get overwhelmed and sort of do nothing in relation to learning, or to sign up for all kinds of free resources. I can so relate to this. Sign up for all kinds of free resources and then never find the time to actually complete them. So our action item for this section is, what's something that you want to learn more about for yourself or for your business? Maybe it's leadership or social media, or I put a whole bunch of farming examples in here because I know that one of the previous calls I was on, there was like, maybe you want to grow something new, or you want to know how to create an online course. So whatever it is for yourself or your business that you want to be better at or you want to learn about, I want you to think about it and write it down. This is part of how we're resetting for the new year as something we want to learn about. We don't have to know how we're going to accomplish it yet, but we know that it's something that we want to learn and incorporate into our days and weeks. Doesn't have to be every day. And I'm not going to do it here right now in the presentation just for time, but if you don't know where to start with learning, I could make a ton of recommendations. I'm actually planning to write some blog posts about resources that I love, books and podcasts and all that kind of stuff. So write down something that you want to learn. Oh, Sheldon, that's a great one. Thanks for sharing. And if anybody else wants to share in the chat what they want to learn, please go ahead. Okay, 8. Number 8 of our 10-item list. I just realized while I'm staring at my notes, I just realized that I have a typo in my notes. Well, good, you can't see it. Patience. If you're anything like me, you're your own worst enemy, and we want everything to happen yesterday. But it's really important to be patient with ourselves, the business process, and those around us. This is a really short one, actually. It's also really easy to get caught up in the present moment, whatever's going on right now, and not think about all of the accomplishments of the year. So here's our action item. I said this is a really short one. We're already at our action item. Here's what we're writing down. I want you to reflect on your 2020 year. I want you to focus on the things that went well. Some of you may have to dig deeper than others on this. It might have been different from what you expected, but what can you learn from it? What have you learned about yourself and your business? And just in the interest of time, I'm going to get you to write that down, like reflect on my 2020 year, what went well. You might have time to write down 1 or 2 things. If not, this is your homework. I want you to come back to this. What went well in 2020? And you might have to dig deep, but we all have something. Okay. The last few are quite short. I mean, they could all be their own presentations, but for my purposes, they're quite short. So number 9, if you're keeping notes with me, nourishment. If you're feeling tired, sluggish, it's really important to remember that what we put into our bodies affects our physical and mental health. And also, just on sort of a side note with this, if you do feel tired and sluggish, please visit a medical professional to rule out any other things that might be going on physically. I actually just went off on a tangent from my notes because this happened to me last year. I was feeling really tired and sluggish. And that's kind of a piece of my mental health as well, so I didn't think too much of it. But I did go to the doctor and I did have blood work, and it turns out that my iron was like non-existent. So, well, there's actually a physical health thing going on with me. No wonder I'm not feeling great. So I just kind of want to add on to that. Be sure to rule out some of the maybe more common medical things. There's a reason why everyone gets on a big health kick in January, because we usually spend the end of the year overindulging. But what we want, what we're looking for as part of our reset and as part of our energy is that we want a sustainable commitment to work towards putting good food into our bodies and drinking lots of water. We can't get into this too in-depth today, but for our action item, for number 9, I want you to write down one thing that you can commit to for this year, or that you want to commit to for this year, that supports nourishing yourself in a positive way. And to kind of help you along, maybe it's planning your meals in advance weekly. Maybe it's getting a nice water bottle or a cup so that you can work towards drinking more water. Maybe it's making or buying healthy snacks to have on hand when you have a busy day and want to make sure you're staying healthy. This is something that I've been doing for myself, is prioritizing the time to make some things in advance so that I have them here. So that when I'm hungry and I go to get a snack, I have something here that's nourishing. So write that down. What's something that you can do, commit to, or you want to commit to that supports nourishing yourself in a positive way? And friends, we are at number 10. My last piece of the presentation before we kind of clue up. And I just moved my notes and I lost it. Okay. The cliffhanger. Number 10. Reset daily. Okay, what do I mean by that? Everything that we're talking about today sounds simple, but as I've said, it can be really difficult to put it into practice. If you have a bad day, if you get off track, it's okay. We can reset each and every day. And one of the things that I like to do to reset is to focus on the things that I'm grateful for that day, the things that went well or went okay. It really, really helps me when I'm in a bad headspace. So particularly for business, if everything feels negative in the moment, when I make a conscious decision to focus on the good or the more positive things, and sometimes I have to dig deep. There's times where I can sit there and be like, oh, nothing good happened today. You have to look for it, and if you dig, you can almost instantly feel that shift, and you have the power to reset for your business and yourself every day. So for our last action item, I just want you to take a minute. We have like less than 10 minutes left, so I'm trying to be mindful of time. Come back to this if you want to reflect on it more. Write down 3 things. We're not through our day yet, so you can use today or yesterday. 3 things that you are grateful for today. Sometimes I say, like, I'm happy that the sun is shining. I don't know what it's like out there, but it's not shining here, but I'll say that. Or I might say I'm really grateful to have this warm cup of tea in my hands right now. And if you're open to it, you can share something that you're grateful for in the chat box, no pressure. Okay, I'm just going to click over to my next slide. Oh, you're grateful for my session. I feel so happy. I'm so grateful for all of you because I love doing this. Okay, so we're almost done. I try to be really respectful of people's time, even when I have so much to say. And I will be here at the end if anyone wants to ask me any questions. Okay, I just talked about a lot of stuff. Where do we go from here? First thing, start small. We can all make positive changes to improve our mental well-being. My journey is several years in the making now, well, many more years than that, but when I've put some specific emphasis on my wellness, and it will continue on. And I encourage you to start small, but start somewhere. Something else really important, particularly right now because I can't see you and I can't see your faces, because I'm a mental health first aid trainer, I can't leave the presentation without kind of saying this. If it's not right now, but if you're going through a period of time where you feel down or you feel unwell, this is an extremely common situation. I talked about that at the beginning. it's really important to find somebody to talk to about how you're feeling. It can be a friend, but I would also encourage you to find a professional that you can talk to in your area. And if you feel really unwell, it's very important that you do not keep it to yourself. So if you go through a period of time where you feel depressed or anxious, talk to your family doctor or call a peer-to-peer support line to talk about how you're feeling. So, for example, there's a mental health warm line through Channel, and I thought I had the phone number here that I was going to type in the chat, but it's not there. You can find it by Googling. Or if you feel hopeless or you really feel like you have nowhere to turn, it's really important to call, like, for example, the mental health crisis line. And that's a line that's serving the entire province. That number I do have there, and I just put it in the chat box. I just want everybody to know that there is help and support if you don't feel like yourself. And the third thing that I want to leave off, oh yes, thank you, Carol. Doorways is also a great program. And I have I don't want to bring it up right now, but I do have a whole list of resources in Newfoundland and Labrador on my blog. And I will show you the website in just a second. So you can also go on there. I have a whole bunch of mental health resources here in the province. So the third thing that we can do is use the tools and ideas I've talked about today to spend some time setting yourself up for the year, for your year. Take some time after today to review and reflect. Think more about your daily essentials and how you will, oh, thanks, Allison's like so on the ball. Oh, no, I don't, Sharon, but I will put it on there, absolutely. Actually, Sharon, I want to talk to you. I'm going to email you at some point very soon anyway. Think more about your daily essentials and how you're going to prioritize them and start putting things into action in small steps. So I have 3 minutes. I have my last slide. Oh, I'm like so happy with myself right now because this is my first time doing this specific presentation. I always get worried I'm going to get too chatty. I love hearing from you. I love talking to you. I love interacting with you. So let's connect. That's my website address. It's AllisonButler.ca, 1 L in Allison. You can find my blog there. You can find information about mental health first aid training there. And Allison also posted my blog right there. So I do interview like other business owners in kind of the wellness field. I'll be sharing lots more there this year in 2021 as well. And also, if you have Instagram or Facebook, love for you to follow me if you aren't already. I post a lot about my own story and my own experiences and how I'm doing and what I'm feeling on Instagram. And so please give me a follow over there and I will follow you right back because I love chatting with people and interacting with other business owners. I have like a minute to spare, but I'm more than happy to, if Allison Rowe is open to it, I'm more than happy to stay on for a little minute, answer anyone's questions in the chat, answer anyone's questions with voice if you want to, or I'm more than happy for you to reach out to me through some other means and to chat with you later. I hope you found the presentation interesting and useful, maybe a little bit different from what you were expecting, I don't know. But I hope you're feeling energized for the year to come and that you have some tools and resources to move forward with. And thank you so much for joining me today and being here. Absolutely, really appreciate it.
And thank you from Navigate, Allison, for coming on and agreeing to do this. This was a fantastic session. I know personally I've attended a lot of, similar, like not similar in the sense of sessions that were just like this, but like other wellness sessions in the past through other work that I've done as well. And this one was quite different, and there are a lot of, a lot of new things, new ideas that I learned from it, and I'm sure that the other folks on here will agree. A lot of really practical, useful things, and just, things that you can really put into place quickly to help yourself as an entrepreneur, as an individual. I think especially the thing that stood out to me is, that when you were talking about those, the time boxing, and that the most essential things in the day are the ones that take care of you and not your business. I think that's a little bit of a paradigm shift for a lot of people, because we tend to put everybody else first, and business, the kids, the whatever, but taking care of yourself first really is important.
Thank you. And I'm just going to add in, as some people are saying thanks in the chat, I really appreciate all of your comments. And I'm also so happy to see a couple of you here that I met last year in Pasadena at another presentation that I did on a totally different topic. But I'm really happy to see your familiar names pop up here. And keep going with your business and keep doing what you do. And I'm really happy that people feel like they got some value from it. So I'm all energized for my day, thanks to my bouncy chair. I hope so. If you found me super distracting on my bouncy chair, write me after and tell me, because it's something totally new that I'm trying. But I feel really energized for my day despite being a little bit tired. So go out there. Stay connected to me. Let me know how you're doing. And I love to follow your business journeys as well.
And Allison, just a quick question. Do you offer personalized sessions for people as well, personal coaching?
I can, yes. I don't have them like really prominently on my website right now, but if anyone is interested, if you want to do like a 1-hour accountability session, if you want to do some creative business brainstorming with me, if you want to kind of like figure out your wellness from your own perspective, reach out to me and we'll set up a little one-on-one.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much again for coming on today. Thank you for everyone who joined, and for everyone being so open with participating and providing their comments. We'll be following up in our regular newsletter with some of the tips that came out here today, and we'll have Allison's contact information. So again, if anyone wants to continue this journey with Allison, all that information will be there. And in the meantime, feel free to reach out to me as well at Navigate. My email again, Allison, ALLISONR @ grenfell.mun.ca. If you're needing help with your business as well, I know we're on the hopefully the end of the pandemic soon, but it's still still very real, and a lot of people still need support. So don't forget, we're here to help you with that. Thanks again, Allison. Thanks everyone for joining. Fantastic session, and I personally look forward to putting a lot of this into practice.
Thanks, I'm so glad. Bye everyone. Have an amazing day.
Thank you. Have a great day.